Good morning. For the record, my name is Erin Murphy, City Councilor at Large. I'm the chair of the Boston City Council Committee on Public Health, Homelessness, and Recovery. I am joined by my colleague, Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson from District 7. This hearing is being recorded. It is being live streamed at boston.gov/city-council-TV and broadcasted on Xfinity Channel 8, RCN Channel 82, and FiOS Channel 964. We will be taking public testimony at the end of this hearing. If you are interested in testifying here with us in the chamber, please sign up at the sheet near the door. If you are interested in testifying virtually, please email megan.kavanaugh@boston.gov. That's MEGHANKAVANAGH@boston.gov for the link. Today's hearing is on Docket 0409, Order for a Hearing to discuss developing an app to support parental involvement and support. This matter was sponsored by Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson and referred to the committee on March 23rd, 2022. So, good morning, everyone. I'm going to read a letter of absence into the record from Dr. Kevin Simon. It's a little long, but it's important, so I will read that and then we'll... Dear Chairwoman Murphy and honorable members of the committee, thank you to sponsor Councilor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson and the committee for holding a hearing on this critical topic. I regret that I am unable to attend due to teaching a class, but I hope that you will consider the following comments. Poor mental health is one of the leading causes of disability in young people. In 2019, suicide was the second leading cause of death for people ages 10 to 14. Poor mental health in adolescents is a significant factor influencing risk-taking behaviors. For example, self-harm and use of substances, risky sexual behaviors, and exposure to violence. Moreover, many factors influence youth mental health, including personal, like our genes, and environmental, including neighborhood. One modifiable factor with a long-lasting impact is parental engagement and parenting style. Recent Massachusetts surveys of young people show an alarming increase in the prevalence of specific mental health needs. In 2019, 1 in 3 high school students and 4 in 10 female students reported persistent depressive symptoms, an increase of 40% from 2019. Over that same period, there was a 30% increase in Mass high school students reporting seriously considering suicide. Focusing on Boston high school students, in 2019, 35% reported persistent depressive symptoms, 15% reported engaging in self-harm, and around 10% reported attempting suicide in the past year. From my critical experience and research findings, I can say that the pandemic has exacerbated the stressors young people were already experiencing. The work of the Boston Public Health Commission school-based mental health clinicians, other organizations, and providers who provide mental health services to youth is more important now than ever. Traditionally, youth experiencing mental and behavioral health challenges engage in forms of face-to-face talk, therapy, psychotherapy, and interventions like cognitive behavioral therapy, supportive psychotherapy, dialectal behavioral therapy, and motivational interviewing. Now, many youths are seeking online mental health support. Digital interventions may provide alternative methods to support youth and families while addressing the limitations of face-to-face delivery formats. Most digital interventions, however, have focused on adults. The evidence for youth-specific digital interventions is less robust, and we need more research. Clinicians and those interested in the well-being of youth need to be aware of what apps have strong, positive evidence supporting their efficacy and should exercise caution when recommending apps to youth and families. In closing, I would like to emphasize the importance of mental health support for Boston youth, and I commend the Council for exploring creative options to provide the support. Thank you, Dr. Kevin M. Simon. So thank you, Dr. Simon, for that. So before I turn it over to the sponsor, Counselor Tanya Fernandez-Anderson, I will just go over the panels. We do have panel 1 in front of us. It is Peter Rempalakis, Director of Child and Adolescent Mental Health, Denise Snyder, who is the Chief of Family and Community Advancement, Sonia Gomez-Bonre, Senior Director of BPS Welcome Services, and Kristen McSwain, the Executive Director for the Mayor's Office on Early Childhood Education. So thank you for being here. I will hold off on my opening remarks so that my colleague can start. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. I thank you, all of the panelists today, for being here. I originally had filed this to, as an idea to explore opportunities to just have a conversation about what are the possibilities of possibly enhancing the already existing app with BPS, and how do we integrate that into education and health and out of school time. As we know, I don't know if you've had a chance to read the policy brief that I put together, and so for the most part, it just gives you sort of the information, and I guess for folks at home, it'd probably be useful for me to read it. I'll do my best to be brief. There's a conclusive link between child academic performance, behavior, mental health, and physical health with levels of parental involvement. Parents and providers desire stronger collaboration and access between home, school, healthcare facilities, community services, and many parents are prohibited from such positive interactions due to lack of financial resources, educational resources, and or flexible work schedules, causing parents to experience time poverty, which creates obstacles toward dedicating appropriate time to their child's education concerns, in contrast to what's made available to privileged families of higher socioeconomic status. Single parent households are additionally burdened by lack of available flexibility to address their child's out of school time. And often minority parents experience negative interactions with school personnel, relate being treated as second-class citizens, and feel alienated from the educational process, which ultimately erects additional barriers to more parental involvement. And parents and caregivers with strong mental health support are more likely to provide a positive quality of life and perform more consistently at home, in school, and community. Children's and parents' mental health are inextricably linked. Fathers, mothers, and caregivers who are given the proper support can contribute positively to their children's mental health, treatment goals, and or challenges. And children that are educated in financial literacy are better equipped to avoid financial debt, manage future investments, and are better prepared to navigate future events. This creates stable conditions for further education and career advancements, and strong civic engagement empowers our citizens to be part of the demographic process and contribute to public policies that shape their immediate environment. Civic education is a prerequisite to active citizenship and community interest. When children have access to their full rights and acknowledge about our democracy, they're able to take ownership of their community and its future. And children need positive behavioral patterns to model good health and general nutritional habits. These are usually formed in their early years of life. It is important to empower parents with resources to promote healthy eating habits, active lifestyle choices, and daily wellness practices to reduce the risk of depression, disease, and other health disorders that disproportionately impact minority populations. And teenagers who work less than 15 hours per week garner better grades than those that don't work at all. Having a job and responsibilities creates conditions for young people to develop independence and greater self-worth. It also contributes to their financial literacy understanding of personal finances. This establishes a strong sense of self and promotes confidence in other areas of their lives. And research demonstrates parents with more knowledge are more likely to engage in positive parenting practices. And when given access to tools and strategies to constantly set boundaries and expectations, children are more children are able to establish solid foundations for success, and the City of Boston is responsible for the well-being of its residents, including parents and children. Now, therefore, be it that the appropriate committee of the City of Boston City Council hold a hearing to discuss ways to support parents in monitoring and structuring their children's out-of-school time to support their well-being, specifically through the development of a digital platform that would allow parents to aid their child's behavior modification, structure out-of-school time, teach parents ways to advocate for their child's behavioral health needs while implementing therapeutic interventions, assist with academic assignments, provide parents with the tool to monitor their child's schedule, manage child's health needs or appointments, encourage homeschool involvement and parent-child engagement, incentivize children to work on their holistic goals, and that the Boston Public Schools Department of Innovation and Technology, the Mayor's Office of New Urban Mechanics, Behavioral Health Providers, Union, Capital Boston, and other interested parties be invited to attend. Thank you so much for bearing with me. As you can see, so the gist of it is really thinking of a treatment plan or the journey of a treatment plan for a child. We're charged as providers, they are charged, or I used to be charged with implementing interventions and then monitoring that. And that takes a level of engagement, that takes a level of time management, that takes a level of executive functions that you teach, these skills that you teach children in order for them to perform well. And so in doing that, we think about the holistic aspect of the child, the whole child. And you think about, all of the services that they're inundated with, in addition to school, in addition to all of the stressors that the parents are already, or the family is already facing. And so I wanted to open this up to the City of Boston so that we can come together and hopefully, if necessary, with the Madam Chair's permission, that we move into a working session if necessary to really delve deep into the conversation about what are the needs, what is currently in existence, and how can we amplify that to make it more effective. I thank you, and back to you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So we can get right into the panel, and I do agree that this is the beginning of a great conversation. And I do like that the few hearings we've had already that involve the mental health needs and our students in BPS are not across the city. I see familiar faces in front of us, so it's great to see that the experts are here to support, and looking forward to continuing this conversation to keep it always moving forward. So that being said, if you've already decided, or if you'd like to choose who goes first, that's fine.
Doesn't matter. I think there was some indicator that BPS would go first, but I can defer if there's a timeliness to someone else presenting.
Yeah, however you'd like.
We'll certainly let you know.
Well, all right then.
Sure.
Okay. So we submitted a memo late yesterday sort of outlining our engagement strategies in lieu of a PowerPoint, so that way we could share with you the steps through some talking points and then be able to engage in more of a conversation. So first, let me just say thank you to Chair Murphy and to Councillor Fernandez-Anderson for holding this hearing, really giving us an opportunity to tell you about the work of BPS, that of our engagement team, but also of our colleagues. My name, as I said before, is Denise Snyder. I'm the Chief for Family and Community Advancement. As well, I was brought back to the district in December, so this is about a 10th month of return for me. And with me is Senior Director for Welcome Services, Sonia Gomez-Banray. And Welcome Services, as you may know, really oversees our school choice and registration and enrollment pieces. So we're happy really to be here to collaborate with the city, with our community partners on ways to advance engagement, We know, we're not getting an A+ in it, but we're a work in progress, and we're proud of a lot of the things we have going. So just to be able to share what those are as a way of discovery and of collaboration going forward, I think is a great opportunity for us. So as a starting point, we'd like to provide an overview. And I'd like to acknowledge first the mission of the Office of Family and Community Advancement, and which is really to develop a district-wide culture of engagement and advancement, fostering and prioritizing partnerships between families, schools, the district, and our community partners, with a shared understanding that we all have an accountable role for every student's success story, from enrollment through graduation and beyond. Much of our engagement takes place at the schoolhouse level. It's where we want relationships to be. It's where we count on relationships at a localized level to really be what helps a community thrive. And so those relationships should be fostered between students and families, educators, and school leaders. But the district also has a responsibility for communicating important information and for engaging with families in shared decision-making. To this end, BPS engages and informs families in a number of ways, and some are traditional while others are emerging and innovative. So tested methods are ones that you're very familiar, our BPS website, tabling at flyers at events throughout the city, utilizing the US mail, email, automated calls, which we're all very familiar with, backpack communications, still a really important backbone, and word of mouth. At the same time, BPS explores new innovations and tools to engage. We integrate platforms that enable our district and our schools to communicate directly with families in real time in their preferred languages. And therefore, we really have, I think in the last few years, put language access at the forefront of the work we're doing to eliminate barriers to communicate and to be in relationship. We were an early adopter of Lionbridge. That's a telephonic interpretation service. It provides real-time interpretation support for conversations. Initially, it's called telephonic support because initially it was for the phone. It works just as well as in Zoom, and you can certainly call upon it in person if you need to. But we're also really excited to introduce Translate Live, which is our little tool here. This will be rolling out this winter, and it's a new communication solution that allows users to easily and instantly engage in real-time conversation in person. The tool supports hundreds of languages, and we're happy to demonstrate it later if you'd like, but in short, I can speak into this side, and anyone with any other language chooses their language, speaks in that side, and it's just a live interpretation. The district, that's a lot about the how, and I just want to spend a couple of minutes on the why we do what we do and in what formats before we close. And so the district begins communicating with prospective families each year, starting in late fall, going through the spring, encouraging families to discover their schools, and then register in the first round of the grade. We work closely actually with UPK and a lot of our community-based partners to really reach families of our littlest learners. We, each school year, also welcome families to BPS well before the first day with introductory messages and greetings. And that comes in a lot of ways. Families get phone calls, or they might get postcards, or they might get emails. But more often than not, they're usually invited to a school-based activity, such as a welcome session or a tour of the school. So families really have the opportunity to meet each other in the community, meet their school staff, ask questions, and really share. It's a really wonderful opportunity to start to share information about your child's needs. It's a great point to start a positive and proactive advocacy for your child. Throughout the year, BPS also shares important information from the district. These communications are often more high impact one way, so you might see something about snow days or updated pandemic protocols or vaccine clinics. And again, talking about working with another partner at the table, Boston Public Health Commission has been our steadfast partner through the pandemic. We also have meetings and messages around changes in the community, like the Orange Line shutdown, and how we'll support families through that, as well as invitations and reminders for events and programs. As school was opening, the district in fact held 2 community sessions virtually to welcome families and specifically share information around our Orange Line strategies and our COVID protocols, and nearly 1,000 participants across those 2 sessions turned out, and we were able to answer more than 100 questions. We recorded those sessions, post them on the website, but we also email letters home to families, because we know we all receive information in different ways, and there isn't one strategy that's going to be the thing that works. BPS works to ensure students and families have opportunities also to learn and ask questions and provide feedback. That can include Parent University. And I was so happy in some ways that you returned to nutrition, because literally last night Parent University held a virtual session raising nutritious eaters, and they had over 100 people attend that virtual session and a lot of really positive feedback. So that's recorded, but they'll be looking to hold that again because it was so positive. I want to talk though just for a moment at the schoolhouse level. Those relationships that matter so much, and we've invested, as you know, through a budget process and family liaisons. It's another layer of support and connection, and really, while every educator should have a relationship with their families, the liaison serves as that person who can really go hand in hand with that family a little bit more, a little deeper for connections to local resources. In fact, they spend 2 weeks in professional development every summer, and part of that is mapping their neighborhood resources for families. The new BPS helpline, which launched in May, as well as the BPS transportation hotline, provides support and access for families, both for information, but as we know, for issue resolution. They can connect via phone, email, and the transportation line also has a portal. The new BPS helpline in its next phase will be looking to expand a portal, to create a portal as well as establish a kiosk system as well. I think more important than all of that, though, is that these are ticketed systems. Ticketed systems provide accountability. It allows us to see where an issue is in resolution. It also allows us to gather data and realize that if something is happening over and over again, then we have to revisit protocols and trends or policies. And I think this is a really great opportunity for us to get out ahead of the same things constantly, history repeating itself, if you will. In closing, I just want to say that we understand that we operate best when we put parents as our partners, and families as our partners. We are proud of the developments. I started to catalog so much and it just got out of hand. But that doesn't mean that we're stellar at it, and we recognize that the more we can collaborate with our community partners, the better we'll be for it. So I'll close with that and just thank you for the opportunity, and take questions when you're ready.
Thank you. Sonia, do you want to go, and then we can ask questions to BPS?
I actually am here to answer questions if when they come. Yeah.
Okay.
In fact, I asked Sonia to come with me because the work that Welcome Services has done as an example of the outreach and support, I think it's a high quality example. And so as questions come up, I know that she can speak to a lot of the efforts that have been done there that we really should be replicating across other departments.
Okay, thank you. And we've been joined by Councilor Lara from District 6. Welcome. So we can go into questions to BPS, if that's okay, before we move on to, would you like to start? I'll go back to you.
Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Can I call you Ms. Snyder?
You can call me Denise.
All right, Denise.
Sarah, that's good.
Thank you. Denise, I really appreciated is it Transit Live?
Translate Live, yeah.
Translate Live?
Yeah.
I really appreciate that, of course. And I I used to work for BPS in doing family engagement, and it was quite an experience when I had to translate into 4 different people. Somehow, there was a Brazilian family who married a Cape Verdean family, but the relative somehow was Latino. It was really interesting, and that would have been useful. And then I guess I want to know about your kiosk. You mentioned, is that actually going to be a thing?
We're hoping it's going to be a thing. It's about phase 3 for us. So the next will be the app, the online portal or app, and then a kiosk in which, we'll start in probably the first floor of Dudley, but is something that we can take with us on the road, when there are big events. I think of even the countdown to kindergarten celebration, we bring staff. But to be able to bring helpline staff because right now we're like, oh, here are a couple people from registration and a person from special education. The helpline staff are really well versed in a lot of topics, but even when they're not, they put in that ticket, they make that connection. But a family could walk away with a ticket number and be able to say, can you tell me where my case is, either by name or ticket? It's a way to get things started wherever we are.
Thank you. And Ms. Gomez-Bonray, I'm not sure if this is for you, but in terms of family engagement, what would you say is the biggest challenge into actually supporting families with, and I'm particularly interested in out-of-school time and how parents are managing children's out-of-school time.
I think that's more in partnership with the Boston Public Schools, but one of the things that we do with families when they come in to register, we let them know these are the schools. They get a booklet that has the information. We'll answer questions because the registration staff is really well versed in what's happening at each of the schools. They visit the schools during school preview time, and if families have those questions, they're able to look at it and say, this school has an after-school program. There's a charge for some of them, so that information we would share with families. We would also share with families if there's a before school. Some families register, and the times that they select, the times of the school operating hours are very different than what they need in order for them to get to work. So we make sure that they understand that process. The bus will come around this time. This is the time. Does that give you enough time to drop your child off and get into, get into work or to whatever they need to do? So if the school does not offer that, then we share that information with them just so that they understand that the school would not have those services available, so that then they can look at other options.
Because every family has somewhere between 6 and 14 schools on their choice list. And Discover BPS is a platform in which they can see their whole list. They can click in and start to do some discovery and ranking. They can move them around and star them and decide which ones they want to learn more about. But they can learn which ones offer before or after school. But again, not everyone can access everything the same way. So the staff at Welcome Centers will also walk them through that. The reality is our schools are responsible for whether or not they host before and after school, and our liaisons play a critical role in understanding what's available in the community. And I can remember registering families myself and saying, that's a 9:30 start.
Yeah.
Are you sure you can make a 9:30 start? And that's the level of conversations we should be having at the get-go if we want families to be successful.
What's the name of the current app that is used between families and teachers?
So they can, a couple of things. Aspen is our student information system, and they can email educators directly from it. But I think you're talking about talking points. We also, lots of educators will also use Remind or Dojo, but talking points is what's available across the district.
And Seesaw for early childhood.
And Seesaw for early childhood. And that automatically does the translation back and forth.
Please tell me the difference between the 3 apps.
I'll tell you that there's probably very little difference. It's some educators were early adopters of, say, Dojo, which seemed to be out there a few years ago. And then our district has bought into talking points as something anyone can use. And so we encourage it widely. But people have their favorites.
I know that Aspen communicates grades, progress reports, and stuff like that.
Right, but there's
And
also some one-way communication there and links where you can reach your educators.
So mostly communication,
Yep.
academic, follow up or follow through. And talking points does what? Is it more of a task management as well?
No, not at all. It's very much a texting opportunity with families. I wanted you to know
Communication.
that Erin's having a great day today. I'm going to send you a picture of the thing she was working on
So
now.
it's not using your cell phone, but it
Yeah.
acts like a text.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just a way of actually having the relationship when maybe coming in person or the phone call is long, but it's just real time. I want to send this
Seesaw
to
and
you.
JoJo, same communication?
Seesaw will give families access to what the child is currently doing in the classroom, so they will able to see the work that they completed that day, and then the families can send information back and forth to the teacher. So it's a way of communicating back and forth, but actually having access to what the child is learning in the school.
Right.
Last question for you, sorry, Madam Chair, thank you. I guess I'm trying to connect the parent to the teacher. I'm thinking about how the parent university is highly involved in equipping the parents with the tools in terms of academic support at home, but also in how we follow through. I know that teachers or schools have family engagement people that then follow up with all of these providers, right? You may have like an intensive care coordinator that comes in, or mentors, people in the community, or school-based therapists that are coordinating all of these resources or services.
Sure.
But at some point, there are certain level of progress that needs to be measured or monitored. And I think there's a disconnect between home and school. On academic level, health tracking level, anything out of school time sort of gets lost in the sauce. And I know that this is not BPS's responsibility per se to actually implement, but it does need to be a
It's
collaboration.
a real world issue, for sure.
Okay.
Yep, agreed. And, so the thing I would say is that the Office of Family and Community Advancement, while trying to think about real-time supports and ways we improve upon that, is also very much charged with capacity building. So Parent University is a great example of building capacity with our families, and the work that we really need to do, and I think we got a little bit distracted during the pandemic, is building capacity of our educators, both in mindset, resources, skill sets, because it's not something you took in in your grad classes, Family Engagement 101, which I think you're starting to see more of now, but it wasn't traditionally taught. And time. Where do you fit that in the day? How are we planning for it? But we do have to build that capacity. And when the pandemic hit, engagement took a really hard left turn and focused so much more on one element of engagement, which was providing resources.
Thank
We
you.
have to go back.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. A few questions. And also just want to state that obviously as a teacher for 24 years, I absolutely knew the overwhelming benefits when parents were able to be actively engaged in their child's academic lives. So it's important that we continue that work, and you mentioned a lot of different creative communication types that are happening across the school. I know they're not always consistent, and do you track how successful they are?
It's
To
work we're
see-
starting to do. We have an evaluator in our office now who's working with each of the departments on if this is your strategic goal, how are we measuring that? And so there's a bit being done. Right now there's a survey with liaisons around how much of each of the things that they do. And
Right, to
So-
make sure. Because you mentioned how last night was a parent university, had the healthy eating, and it was very positive, but 100 parents is only, what, 0.002% of the student population, not to downplay it, but it's a great, outcome, but to make sure that we're really communicating, because I knew often, you mentioned like the backpack communication.
right.
Oftentimes, I would gauge maybe 70%, you could see it's still in the folder. And also, when you mentioned like the app Seesaw that you were talking about, that's not required, right? So not every teacher does do that or has to do that, right? It may not be the form of their communication, but you did mention the buy-in and that professional development for the teachers, the staff, so that they do see the value.
Yep.
But then it also is where in the day when they're already busy teaching, do they stop and say, and if you have 24 students, are you doing it every day for 24? So there is that, like, making sure that even though it sounds great, like, can we keep up with it, and is it able to, like, follow up? You also mentioned the family liaisons, which I know are across every school. When they first were introduced, it was kind of like you could choose if you needed or wanted one. And I did just want to say I appreciate that you mentioned there's a community piece, that if they're not already from that community, there's like professional development to see, like I met the woman in East Boston, so she knows who are the outreaches, where are those after-school programs, where are the clubs to sign up for. But one thing I do think we need to do better, and will continue to advocate, and I advocated during the budget season for, is consistent, high quality before and after school across the board at every school for like not fee-based. Because that is really, you mentioned, because I knew a family who was at the Henderson and was transferring to the Kenny because the time wasn't there, or at a school that realized after school wasn't an option. And there's an assumption for many parents, if they've seen it working at one school, that, oh, isn't it everywhere? And we know it isn't, so that you must see often, which must become a hardship on your staff and yourself to explain to families that it isn't across the board, it isn't every school, and the quality of it is very different depending. Even though the effort is there to put it in, it's not always. And COVID then shut all of it down, which was hard for everyone. No, but thank you, and Councilor Lara?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you all for being here today. I entered late into the presentation, so I'm not sure that I have any questions. I am a parent of a first grader at BPS, and so I'm familiar with all of the seesaw and the talking point, because we used it to get all of our assignments done at home during the pandemic while he was at home. So I'm just grateful for gathering the information. I know that Councilor Fernandez-Anderson is looking for how we can help parents better structure the students' time, and I think that knowing what it already exists is incredibly helpful. But no questions from me.
Thank you.
Thank you. So, thank you. Do you want to go next, Kristen? Sure. Thank you.
Is it okay to write the rest of them? It sounds like it's basically like we have a full conversation.
Sure. Before you start, if you don't mind, if the other panelists would like to join us here, so just in case, because we feel like this communication could be involved directly, we don't have to be very separate. So Caroline Lean Sultan, Harry Harding, Cheryl Ann Pincham, Farah Geralt, and Dr. Brandy Brooks. If you're here, if you could join us. If you need more seats, we can spread there. Thank you.
Dr. Brooks, if he's with you, he's for you to join.
Yeah, thank you. Go ahead.
Great. Thank you, Chair Murphy and Councilor Fernandez-Anderson, for this really great conversation. I obviously am starting a new office at the city, so I have much less to say than BPS about how we've been doing family engagement. But I did want to start with what our goals are for the office and the initial steps that we've taken to really think about families, particularly families who have children who are 0 to 5. Because that is really the age range that we're working on. So as you know, the mayor launched the office in February. I joined in April. And we're really working towards 3 goals. The first is that every child in Boston has a safe and supportive environment in which their parents or guardians are supported to be their children's first teacher. So all of those things that happen outside the childcare space or the formal schooling space that are really preparing parents and connecting them to the resources that they need to be successful. The second is obviously near and dear, I know, to a lot of people's hearts, which is affordable, high quality early education and care, particularly as we're coming out of COVID and really thinking about ways to support our infrastructure. And then the last, I think, is more of a growing space for us to be thinking about, which is really creating opportunities to make healthy connections that draw on the richness of Boston's physical spaces, our resources, and our cultural heritage. So how do we make sure that families have spaces across the city where they can meet, they can connect, they can share resources, they can explore everything that our city has to offer in a way that is equitable across the entire city and maybe not just in pockets, but thinking about the assets that we have, both physical and cultural institutions. So those are the goals that we're working towards. And in year one, or in the first 5 months, what we've really focused on are a couple of things. One is coordinating outreach and information on city-run programs and community-led programs. So we've put a lot of things on our website that direct parents to resources in education, in health and safety, in housing. The kinds of things that we've heard from parents are the things that are difficult to get connected to, or confusing, or they just don't even know where to start. We're trying to create a one-stop place for them to go and find out where they should be headed next, whether that is Boston Public Health Commission or the Office of Housing, or if that's BPS, really connecting them to those resources, both at the city level but also at the state level. The second thing that we've begun to work on over the last 6 months is finding a one-stop enrollment and discovery process for parents for 0 to 5 that includes our UPK programs, our BPS K1 programs and K0 programs, but also our family child care and our centers, because people are going to make different choices based on their family needs. So really thinking about that. And then the third thing is expanding our UPK program. And since UPK has been around a little longer, I'm going to start with the family engagement that happens in those spaces. As you may remember, our UPK program is in the community-based setting is a grant to community-based providers. And so as a part of that grant opportunity, really focusing on quality, we've asked all of them to budget for a half-time family engagement liaison who's working with all of their families, really connecting them to the resources that they need in the community that they belong to. And in addition, in the past year, we've created a family council, which is made up of families from each of the organizations that participate in our community-based UPK program. And they really are giving feedback to BPS, who's our implementer, on here are the things that we think are going really well, here are the things that we should be thinking about changing, here are the resources that we would like to have that we don't have. And so a number of issues have bubbled up from that council that we're thinking about from a systems perspective. So one of the things that we hear both from the Family Council but also from our child care providers is the transition for families into EI is challenging. It's a hard process to maneuver. It's taking a lot of time, particularly post-COVID. So how do we connect to early intervention and ensure our young people are getting off to a good start? But then also, how do we transition from EI, if necessary, into special education at PPS? So we're really taking that feedback and really looking at the system and how it works, what the challenges are, and have been moving forward with a cross-cutting committee to be drilling down on that. The second thing that we are working on from the office's perspective is kicking off a committee that is parents and grassroots organizations, some of whom belong to the Boston Family Engagement Network, but they're representatives, both professional and parent, from Boston Basics, from Families First, from New England United for Justice and Care That Works. It's just sort of a holistic group of people. There's about 20 of them. And they're going to be giving us feedback on creating a framework for family engagement for our office. So what are the ways that the Office of Early Childhood should be engaging with families from a policy perspective, from a programmatic perspective? And so over the next 3 months, we're going to ask them to partner with us to create that framework, because I think it's really important for everything that we develop to be thinking about it from the end user perspective, which is really the family and the child. And then the last thing that we're doing right now is working to host a group of parent fellows from Families First who will build on that framework starting in the new year and help us think through the implementation. So that's really where we're starting. I'm excited by this conversation because I think it's a really important one, and it's what we hear a lot from families. Like, it's really hard to get information. A lot of it is word of mouth, which is great if you actually end up talking to somebody who's connected. But if you don't, that becomes challenging. So how do we help people tap into the really rich resources that Boston has to offer, both from the city but also from our nonprofit partners, and make sure people are getting connected? So thank you for having me in this conversation today, and I look forward to a further conversation moving forward.
And thank you for that overview. I know, like you said, the department is new, but there's already little kids in UPK, and in the last thing you said, I think is very important for almost every department across the city, that we're a rich city, but how do we make sure that all of these, this information about how do you sign up? Because oftentimes we hear in our office, like, oh, I bumped into a mom at the park and found out there was this program, I didn't know about it. So making sure that communication. And not a question, but did just want to make one statement when you mentioned your 3 goals and that healthy connections to Boston with cultural. It did remind me when 25 years ago when my son was at Young Achievers, his first grade teacher, Miss Carver, would take them on the train or the trolley. It was in Mission Hill at that time, or the bus, and they would go to the North End and different spaces around. And back then it was kind of unheard of. Everyone's like, you're letting them go on the bus, but it was just such an amazing thing for these kids to realize, like, oh, we live in the city. We don't have to take a long bus ride to it. Like, let's use the resources that are already here. And I think that ties into that partnering that we need to do a better job at, of making sure the partnerships are with the Public Health Commission or the Boston Public Libraries or nonprofits also, not just departments in the city. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you so much, Kristen. I think you guys have a really thorough and thoughtful process here of thinking about, in terms of engagement, in terms of transitions, in terms of accessibility or even affordability. It sounds like you're also thinking about cultural competency and how to make that space and also a dynamic and equitable environment for all. I like it. I really appreciate that you guys are starting with that thought process. I wonder if you can tell me about, I'm almost hesitant to ask you questions because I realize that this is the beginning steps and it sounds very thorough. And maybe it's a good idea to move on to the next family.
I was going to say, we can absolutely do that. That's completely fine.
Yeah, and then I wonder if we can, with Madam Chair's permission, if we can have a full presentation so that this can be more cohesive in understanding all the components here that fit.
Council,
okay
yeah,
with you.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Council Lara, are you okay with that if we let everyone? Okay, awesome. Thank you. Peter?
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
I am Peter Polakis, and I provide clinical leadership to the Boston Public Health Commission's school-based mental health program. And these are licensed social workers or licensed mental health clinicians that provide individual therapeutic counseling to students across the year as part of our school-based health centers. We also provide group therapy and do some family interventions as well. There are 7 clinical positions that we have and currently provide services to 8 Boston Public high schools. This partnership between the Boston Public Health Commission and Boston Public Schools is one way in which we seek to engage and support youth in addressing their mental health and other vital needs. Over the years, the prevalent issues presented by our students have been trauma, grief and loss, and stresses related to the immigration experience. These issues have not been diminished by the pandemic, which has also served to interrupt, suppress, or inappropriately accelerate the healthy development of our youth. These are complex dilemmas which demand multifaceted responses and culturally competent care. We continue to look for ways to better coordinate existing resources and to build stronger partnerships with our youth, families, and schools. And those are my prepared comments at the time, but I'm happy to address any questions you have.
That was great. Thank you very much. Carolina Leans?
Who's here is Harry.
Is that Harry?
Dr. Brooks.
Harry?
Oh, he's also a doctor, sorry.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Good morning, Councilor Anderson. Good morning, panelists. My name is Harry Harding. I'm the Vice President of Innovation and Strategic Partnerships for Children's Services of Roxbury. Children's Services of Roxbury is a nonprofit, social services nonprofit that's been serving families and children for more than 50 years. We serve currently 6,000 families across the Commonwealth, a significant amount of those living in the city of Boston. We do a range of social services, particularly early education, youth development, foster care, housing and stabilization, as well as a very large behavioral health and mental health supporting department. We are in a massive growth period right now, which is quite exciting because it allows us to continue to think about how we'll serve families in the city of Boston and beyond for the next 50 years. And one of the main components of that initiative and that effort going forward is to make sure that parents and children and young people are engaged in the formation and the execution of these services, that they are not just recipients, that they are also participants. One of the things that is very, very vital to us is making sure that we stick to a wraparound approach, which many of you may be familiar with, but the idea again is that the families are at the center of the service. They are the experts of their own experience, and we help guide them in those experiences and help provide resources as we can. But again, always making sure that we're building on the resiliency and strength of families and not from any level of deficit. I love the idea, the concept that there's nothing about us without us, right? We want to we very much hold that principle dear as an agency. One of the, just to also give a little bit more of an idea of what we're really about in terms of our philosophy is also making sure that access and removing barriers to access to services is very much a part of what we do. We're undergoing right now what we're calling the Front Porch initiative, and this idea of creating a more welcoming approach to service delivery, and again, denying and removing barriers at all costs, making sure that again, that a family that arrives on our doorstep, a young person, from our babies to our older babies, if they arrive to our doorstep, that they get what they need without any type of red tape, bureaucracy, barriers that oftentimes limit our families from getting what they need and our children from getting what they need. I could probably go on and on, Madam Chair, but I will choose not to do that, and I'll again welcome everyone and happy to answer any other questions as well. But thank you again for the time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I do just want to point out, I did like that you said parents are participants, not just recipients, that you really lift up their value, even though they may be in a tough time. That need, that idea of a hand up, not a handout, that they bring a lot of value, even though they need a little support at that time. So thank you for saying
Absolutely.
that. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
So next, are you Carolina or Cheryl Ann? I'm sorry.
It's Dr. Brooks.
I'm Dr. Brandy Brooks. Welcome.
Morning. Oh, that's loud. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dr. Brandy Brooks. I am the Deputy Director at Higher Ground, a nonprofit collective impact organization focused on educational outcomes, housing homeless students, and providing health and wellness support for communities in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan. I do have some prepared remarks, so I just want to read those because some of our parents actually helped me prepare these, so I want to honor them for helping me do that. So I first want to thank Councilor Anderson for inviting us to be in this space, Councilor Murphy for your leadership and on the council, and other district at large. I see Councilor Laura here, panelists, and others in the room in this space. And so I want to start with a story that a parent provided me. In June of 2022, we were wrapping up our after-school program at the David Ellis Elementary School. And I had come with some treats. The young people love Takis. So I came with some Takis and other things, and the kids were outside playing. But I got the opportunity to talk with one of our parent volunteers, Miss Sylvia. And she was there that day actually engaging the young people around the wonders of being a medalist. So she taught the young people how to use the metal detectors and go around the school and find treasures. And as we were talking, one of the things she said was, you know, what her hopes were for the school as a parent and as a school committee member. And one thing she said was that, you know, she volunteers with our after-school program because, yes, her child is part of the program, but also she believes all children need the support. And, you know, as I thanked her for sharing those comments, she was like, there's no reason to thank me. Like, this is my kid's school and all the other kids' schools and parents in this school. And so I need to be engaged even if they cannot be. So I'll be here to support those kids. And I think that sentiment is true for most parents. They care about their kids. They care about their children's education. But sometimes they can't chaperone that field trip or do those traditional things that we think of as parent engagement. But they're always still thinking about how can I support my child in their growth, whether it be social, behavioral, or emotionally. And so this type of parent engagement, where we literally had parent volunteers come and work with us in our after-school program, it's at the heart of the work that we do at Higher Ground. You know, our organization was founded in 2010 by well-known activist Hubie Jones. And since that time, we really center our work in a simple question. We ask communities, we ask parents, we ask staff, what do you need? Not what can we provide, but what do you need? And then based on the answer to that question, we try to fill the gaps. And some of the ways that we've done it over the last 12 years include several stories, some of which Sharif might attest to in his comments. But we've helped engage and support parents, school staff, and others to testify on behalf of the Higginson Inclusion School to get a $500,000 grant to build their playground. The school had been in existence for more than 100 years and never had a playground. So we helped engage and encourage parents around that. As Kristen mentioned with UPK, we also supported our community partner, Crispus Attucks Children's Center, to become a UPK site several years ago. We host monthly network nights with our parents and families, and we have over 100 parents attend on a monthly basis because they want to know what are the resources, what are the services. As well, since 2018, we have helped support 402 students and their families secure housing and still be stably housed to this day. And that's just some of the work we do. But again, as was just shared, I love the quote, you know, nothing without us is for us. Nothing about us is for us. And so it's important because we have to center our work in how do we engage and start with the simple question of what do you need, and be willing to listen to the answer that is provided. Not just look at parents as clients, but as partners and part of the schools, part of the communities. And so I'm glad to be here today. I'm glad to share some of that knowledge and some of our experience working in the community, partnering in the community. And I definitely want to hear more about the application, the platforms that are being advanced today. And so I thank you, and I'll turn it over to Sharif, who is one of our parent advocates, who took time out of his schedule today to be here with us and share his experiences.
Thank you. Thank you, Sharif, for coming and joining us. Here we'll go.
Oh,
There you go.
thank you, Madam Chair, Councilor Anderson. And all the other board members. I'm just a parent. I would like to encourage the schools committees to just partner more with the resource centers, because like Brandy said, my family has benefited greatly from this resource. I have twin daughters, 5 years old. They were Crispus addicts, and they was one of the first students that utilized the UPK program. So what parent engagement means to me, I saw my daughters when they had birthed at the hospital. I cut the umbilical cords, all this other stuff. One parent reached out to me, and I joined the Nurturing Fathers program at the Family Nurturing Center, and I learned how to be a parent when my daughters was new, and I also took the Power of Parenting class so I can learn how to become a parent. Then I also enrolled in the Parent Child Plus program, so I learned how to homeschool my children. So with all these programs, I learned how to be a parent. So I would like to encourage the schools to utilize the resource centers. I became a parent leader with Surround Care Coalition. And also I became a facilitator for the Nurturing Fathers program, and we just had a wonderful graduation last night. I facilitate play groups, and I'm on the area board for DCF in Hyde Park. And I'm also a member of the parent council with my daughter's school at the Brook Charters. So it's like a little discord with the schools not having a good outreach and how to engage with the parents, but we know how to do it. So I would like to encourage the school staff to continue to do that, work with us. And with these organizations, my daughters are growing strong, beautiful, they're joyful, they're thriving in life, and thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That's great. So thank you, everyone, for sharing. Before I turn it over to the sponsor, I did just want to say, how parental involvement looks different for each family, because each family comes to us in school or at the Public Health Commission, at the doctors, with different needs, but they all bring value. And so when we talk about the different types of communication or how we're offering different programming to UPK students, that we do have to always be reminded that if you have 24 students, you have 24 different needs, and you do have to make sure that you're not just reaching most of them, like throwing out that net and hoping you're catching all of them. I feel like we have to make sure that nobody falls through the cracks, and I know everyone in this room feels the same way. So I do know that when talking with the sponsor on this issue, it was how do we support families after they leave school, also when they're home, to make sure that when they return the next morning, were they able to know what assignments they had? Were they able to do what they needed? Are we bringing the right resources into school in the morning? Are we prepared for the day and over summer breaks and vacations? So I will turn it over to my council colleague, because I know she has some great prepared questions about how we can get this app up and running, and talking more about what resources are already there and how do we just harness that to work together. Thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Harding, thank you so much for your presentation, and thank you, Dr. Brooks. Sharif, very nice meeting you, and thank you for taking the time to coming in. I'm really impressed, and I love the umbilical cord connection. Honestly, it's those small memories that really amplify what our children mean to us, and to break it down to such a profound way. I really appreciated it. Thank you. Dr. Harding, what do you think are some of the most vital areas of information that a parent app like this should provide?
It's a great opening question, Councilor Anderson. I think one of the main things is resources and educational resources. What's available, right? To my colleague who mentioned, what is it that asking the question, what is it is needed, right? Well, if I have an app, or a parent has an app that I can actually access or know what I need right here on my phone, and there's a way in which I can have a directory of resources to access what I need, to me that's a great start. The other thing that I believe is probably very important to have on that app is connecting other resources. So one of the things I've, in years of doing this, we have so many resources in the city. We have there's so many, just in this room, the collection of resources, the collection of knowledge, and it's still very common that parents and community members don't know what's out there. So having an app that's really a resource that is not only can tell them what is it, give them access to what they potentially need, but also telling them how to get to it, how to get to that, whatever that might be, right? So a direct link to the resources I think will be very, very important. One initiative that we've been working with is Boston Basics. I'm not sure if others are familiar with Boston Basics. That's another, just even having, again, that on the app, Boston Basics, so they can connect to it right there. Everything that the agency brings or the organization brings, whatever that is, having the access on the app in one place, one central location where parents don't have to go and continue to search and find. Also, I think of the cultural aspect as well, making sure that the app has language capacity, making sure that, again, it's not a one-size-fits-all, that it's actually, again, geared to the families that actually are in the city of Boston. We're represented by all types of cultures and languages, and making sure that the app is equipped to handle that as well. Those are top of mind. Two things that come to mind is, again, resource, and, again, making sure that it's culturally competent as well.
Thank you so much. Dr. Brooks, BPS mentioned about communication and engagement. It sounds like you're doing a wonderful job. I really like Aspen. I used to be a foster parent myself and had children in BPS, and Aspen has actually evolved, which I appreciate. And I wonder, we're talking about communication, we're talking about access, and then, of course, making it, having it language capacity, and then, of course, this component that has all these resources. So I ask you, in your line of work, in all of, hearing from parents, understanding this field, how do you think you envision the app assisting in this regard?
So I'll answer it in a roundabout way, but I will get to it. So if everybody can just go with me to a classroom when they first introduced televisions, and it was like, ooh, this is a great mode, great method. And then you had the transparency projectors, great mode, great method, and then you DVDs and smart boards and everything like that. If the instructor did not have good pedagogy, had not created rapport, does not have a classroom where it invites creativity and conversation, it's just a tool that's still gonna have a boring instructor in the classroom. And so to answer your question about how do we make sure that this app does what parents need, we have to make sure that it is accessible and that parents are part of the conversation. We keep going back to this, nothing about us without us, but the next part of that is for us. So that is the component I feel we have to make sure is that it's not just another tool, because that can't be the end-all be-all with respect to engagement. Access is very important. We have a lot of apps. We have a lot of tools out there, but are they actually being accessed by parents at the same level that TikTok is? At the same level that some of these other apps that we spend so much time on. And so that's where I come back to, is making sure that parents are part of the creation and the development, because they will tell you what should be on there and how it should be set up in terms of accessibility. And another thing I'd like to just plug too is that we make sure that these applications, if they have links and downloadable tools, that it's actually accessible via phone, because a lot of the apps and the websites do not translate as easy on your mobile phone. And so I think some of those things is we really need to talk about access. But I go back to making sure parents are at the table. As our Senator Warren has said many times before, if you're not at the table, oftentimes you're on the menu. And so we have to make sure to put parents first when we're talking about this type of engagement.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So, Sharif, thank you again. And I wanted to ask you specifically, as a parent, you have this app. Say you go to your child's medical provider, and this one app from your teacher, from school, you can access sort of progress reports. You can also understand if your child has an IEP. If, for example, hypothetically, a parent has a child with an IEP, you can access that, and then it has all these links that are phone accessible, cell phone accessible, to sort of, your Bill of Rights in terms of, right, IEPs in terms of special needs students. Yeah. And it has accessibility to resources that Dr. Harding spoke of in the community. But it also has this way of time management. You actually have a schedule. You go to the schedule and you see, my child is at an appointment on Tuesday, after school, at a therapy session, but then home, but then they did their homework. So, and then you go for accountability and you do a smiley face or something like that as an incentive. And then you also track, I can give my child $1 per good behavior, whatever, right? Yeah. Just hypothetically, what do you envision? Like, what do you see going into it as a parent, and what would make it really interesting or user-friendly for you?
Oh, that's less stressful. That stressful day. Like, I could easily go and communicate with mom, for instance. I could do so much, and I have more time to parent my children, like eat dinner and go to the playground or do whatever. It's just less stress, real accessible, and a happier family. So.
Thank you, Sharif. I yield my time because I know that we have.
Thank you.
Right here.
Thank you for those questions. One, I do want to say we've been joined by Councilor at Large, Councilor Mejia. One thing, I think those questions were great, and maybe some of the other panelists would like to speak on how do we then make sure that across the board, I know your BPS, you mentioned your children, your twins are at a charter school, that many of our students aren't directly in BPS schools, but the app to be successful, I do feel there has to be buy-in. And oftentimes I feel like we should even, unfortunately, have the union at some of these meetings, because a lot of times it comes down to, like when I mentioned Seesaw, it's great if teachers are using it and parents feel like, oh, I won the lottery, I have a really responsive teacher. I'm at work. I know my daughter was sad when I left her at the door of the classroom, but the teacher's sending me a message, so it helps me get through my day as a parent. So maybe if you could touch on, like, how do we make sure that there is that consistency? And we know many BPS parents have children at different schools. They're not always in the same building. So how do we make sure that they can expect the same level of accountability and communication?
It's an excellent question that probably neither one of us are going to answer in a heartbeat today, but I will say, there's a couple of things. One is you are absolutely right about collaborating with the BTU. I think that's a really important space for us. I think it goes back to what I said before, which is we build capacity with parents, but we build capacity with educators. For some, it's mindset. Why is this important? Mm-hmm. For others, it's, I don't know how to do this work. I could talk to 5-year-olds all day, but you want me to engage in their parents, and that's, again, another strategy and skill building. But it's also time. So, and that's a BTU, like, how do we structure our days that people have the space? When we come together in consensus to some of that, it's easier to then say this is an expectation. And to everyone's point, you know, we can't do any of it unless we're co-developing it with families and with our educators and our community partners. So that's definitely the hardcore start point, I believe. I don't know if you wanted to add. Oh, they'll do it.
Okay. So I think it needs to be something that obviously the end user finds it useful. For our families, I know that not everyone's going to sit and read and go through process and information. They need to see it in other ways. So either we provide it in videos and graphs and different ways that families can absorb the information. We tend to give a lot of information and it's all written and it's really hard for some of our families to digest. So trying to break things down to make it easier for them to understand, especially if you're dealing with a second language, that families need to see information in different modes, you know, just because it's difficult to understand. I see some of the stuff that we produce and I can see how difficult it may be, so we try to cut it down and share information, and some of it is written, some of it is directing people to the website because that's what they need, but other people still need the person to guide them and to walk them through a process so that they can understand and find it useful. So.
Thank you. That was helpful. Councilor Mejia?
Thank you. Sorry for being late. There was a little, I thought this was virtual. I got the link, but I made my way here, so here I am. And I do appreciate you all uplifting the quote, which is nothing about us for us. Nothing about us without us is for us, right? And so that mantra is like the key cornerstone about this discussion, because in order for us to really be able to meet the needs of families, they have to be involved in helping us shape that, which is why I was really encouraged by Kristen's remark, because I was listening on my way in, how intentional you are being around creating a family council and an advisory and really working with key stakeholders to inform that work. So that is really, that framework I think is going to be a model that the city could look at and use across all departments, not just in the education space. So I really do appreciate your intentionality. And to Denise, I do have a quick question. I know earlier during your presentation, you talked about that some things are sent via postcard, some things are sent via text message. So I'm just curious if you could just help me understand, like, how do you make the decision as to who gets what type of a mode of communication? Is there a rhyme or a reason behind the madness, or is it randomly?
It's, so I wouldn't say anything is done randomly at the district level, but I will say that a lot of what I was referencing is the ways that our schoolhouses engage with families. And that's going to look different school by school if we're really being true to who are the families we're supporting and what are their needs. We've heard often from parent leaders in SPEDPAC, for instance, that they want the paper in the backpack. Mm-hmm. They want it, they want it, they want it. And so, you know what? We need to meet them where they are and what they need. Where other people want a text from their educator at the beginning of the school year, or like opening the mailbox and finding a postcard for their child, right? So they're working on experiences that are tried and true, or maybe starting to experiment with some new models. That's schoolhouse level. District-wide, we are fairly consistent in you get the automated call, you get the automated email, and we're a little bit more selective on the automated text, because we are finding people opting out of the text if they get them too often. Mm-hmm. So being judicious about, is this something that is really important to folks that isn't maybe going to add a fee to their mobile services. So that's a call we have to make.
Thank you. Yeah, and I wholeheartedly agree that nothing is ever random, but I was just really curious about if it was like an individualized plan. You know how when you're on IEP, they individualize your communication to fit the need of that family, because
I think it's the schoolhouse
the
who's
school,
really thinking about their community.
Okay, that's great. Thank you for that. I guess, and for those, I'm sure most of you know, I am a BPS parent, a BPS graduate, and I also founded a nonprofit organization specifically designed for family engagement, and have been working. I was one of the founding parents at Higher Ground, the parent organizing initiative from many years ago. And so for me, I'm so encouraged by this conversation, because what Councilor Anderson is doing is really bringing all of the thought leaders into this space and thinking about how we're going to systemize the mode of communication and how we're going to engage and use technology as a way to connect those dots, right? Because sometimes it's like the Instacart. I just used it for the first time when I realized I didn't have all of my school supplies. And I was in a hearing, I was like, oh my God. No, I was in a meeting, and I was like, how am I gonna get all of these things to my daughter before tomorrow? But going through that Instacart, I don't know if everybody has done Instacart, okay. I'm not here to endorse it, but it was really easy to go onto Instacart, look for what I need, and then the person who was shopping was sending me text messages about, oh, that's out of stock. That level of instant access to information gave me a sense of ease. And I'm just curious, one thing is just to disseminate information, but I would love to hear a little bit about what you all are thinking in terms of that real-time back and forth. Because when you do get a text alert or you get any type of information, you reply to it, and sometimes it's an automated reply. It's like, this was just for information sharing. Is the district thinking of moving, or just folks who are in the doing family engagement work, moving towards some sort of like real-time engagement through the use of technology? And then the last thing, and I know I think it was Denise, you had talked about accountability, because there's a ticket that gets created, or there's some form of understanding kind of where things land. I'm just curious if there is a platform where the council or just the public can look at, from the moment a person calls about an issue to the moment it gets resolved. Is there a level of tracking that exists that is public, right? Because I do know, based on my own personal experiences, both as a community organizer, an agitator of the district, there were various times when we felt as though our issues were not moving forward, or we were not being taken seriously, right? And so when we think about accountability, I'm just curious about kind of what modes of communication are we working on making sure that the issues that are coming across to the district are being handled, and that there is some sort of public platform for accountability.
Sure, excellent question. So reports can be run at any time and shared publicly. Obviously, we wouldn't have the public sign in and look at information, because it is not as simple. Like, we've moved from beyond, oh, you called and we're just going to say, here's the phone number you need, bye. The helpline is not just information sharing around, oh, your school actually opens at 9:30. It's also, you have an issue to resolve, and we're going to spend the time talking with you about that issue, unpacking what's been done, what hasn't been done, and taking it to the most local level for resolution that it can be, and escalating it if it can't be resolved. But it starts with the ticketing process, so that we can look at any point, both the family or anyone involved, and see where we are with that. There's also built-in resolution times. So for instance, we would expect a hard copy transcript from point of request to point of receipt to be about a week. If that hasn't happened, we have a problem. So we're able to run those reports. Families, when we think something's been resolved, get a little email survey, kind of as simple as the smiley face system of like, do you feel like this has been resolved? If it hasn't, we reopen that case. So we can run reports publicly anytime. For us, what's really critical is that we're looking for those trends. If we're finding out that, you know, the Denise school has a certain issue that's come up 4 times, we better start unpacking at the Denise school and figure out what the problem is and fix it. Like, we've got to learn that we don't keep making the same mistakes over and over again. That helps.
No, I appreciate that. And, you know, one thing that I always harp on the fact is that Boston is resource rich, but coordination poor.
Yeah.
Right? And that this particular app and the efforts that, you know, under the leadership of Councilor Anderson, I think the goal that we're trying to move to is creating a one-stop hub for families, whether it's mental health and, you know, support services that they need, or they've hit a roadblock with their IEP, because we know that happens a lot, or the buses are not showing up on time. That every single point of, or food insecurity, that the way you all think about support services, it has to be like the whole child, the whole family, not just what's happening in the schools, but like how do you create an Instacart type of environment for families to sort through and say, this is the issue that I'm dealing with. Then for us as the council, what are the resources, right, that you all need to be able to execute against those deliverables, right? Because it has to be shared responsibility. We can't just say, you haven't done that, and then we haven't funded that, right? Like, that's one of the things that I'm learning as I continue to go through this process, is that we can't expect you all to be set up for success if we're not willing to listen and learn and allocate the resources for you all to do that. So that all said, and I'd love to hear from our community panelists too, is like, if you had a magic wand, right, what would your vision be for an app that really connects parents and families to the resources? What would that look like for you?
Thank you for the question. And I actually want to return back real quickly just to thank Councilor Anderson for referring to me as doctor, because you just saved me some tuition. I'm not a doctor, but now I don't have to get my PhD because it's official. I'm a doctor in name only. But just to your question, I think that one of the things I've been thinking about along this conversation is how do we incentivize use? Right, because I think in advancing this conversation, one of the things is thinking about, it's great if we have an app that has all bells and whistles, is phenomenal, but how do we also incentivize use? How do we make sure that it's not just sitting on a phone, or it's not just sitting on a laptop, but that parents are utilizing it? And I also want to just return and uphold what, again, the real doctor in the room, on the panel rather, mentioned again about parent involvement in this development and asking them how to what they need, because the other piece of this is, how do we tie usage to, again, for example, maybe more usage, more clicks, more views equals a discount on childcare. Maybe it gives and some other, I'm thinking big picture. More usage means we can give, parents maybe access to certifications of some kind of education certification, some kind of maybe voucher or discount on groceries. We can partner with Uber. The more you use the app, you earn rewards to get free transportation for Uber. The more you use the app, you get a gift certificate for Stop and Shop, whatever. Think big in terms of allowing the economic reality also to be addressed as part of the incentive, as well as the resources you can bring educationally for your family as well. So that I'm going to use this app because I know it's going to benefit my family and my child, but also at the end of the day, it also might help on the economic piece as well. I think those are two realities that this app could potentially, address. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Am I done with my time?
You're done. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. Yes, Council.
Dr. Harding, Mr. Harding, you need to hurry up and finish that then.
Soon.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciated the, idea about incentivizing parents and just campaigning overall and how to really engage parents and teaching this. This brings me right into the segueing into asking my next question to you. Being that you oversee or you work for an agency that provides a host of services, home-based, school-based, as well as community, as well as like outpatient services. And then you do it on different levels. You not only do this on a strength-based approach, but you also have this wraparound model that you use. How, I guess, in incentivizing, do you see this as something that family partners or parent partners can actually teach parents, mentors, or in-home therapists can teach parents to utilize in their sessions and say, we're going to do, this is our plan, this is how often, or this is what we're doing, these are goals that we have, our objectives. One of the objectives is this app, but rather that they are sort of, it's the platform where they go to say, here you can find the interventions that is age appropriate, specific. And I guess I'm asking for a lot in this app, but that parents can actually register and put their child's, age and needs and specific diagnosis on all levels, right? Not just mental health, but physical needs and other nutritionist needs, and then be able to actually be tailored. The plan, the app itself, be able to provide the resources based on that child, right? And so I guess I want to ask you, how do you see your agency or agency like the one you work for to be able to assist in incentivizing or supporting families with learning how to use it?
Yeah, I think that, particularly the family partner role that you mentioned it could be a critical way to support parents who need to use the app or want to use the app. So certainly a direct connection between the services that we're already providing, but really that question led me to the thinking that the app, it's in and of itself, again, is just an app. What ultimately this will come down to is about the relationships and the connection that the staff and that the employees have with a particular parent and family. That will ultimately decide whether or not the app has value, is not just, again, what's in the app, but the connection and the relationship between the one-to-one. It's the relationship. So ultimately that will be where that's going to come down to individual organizations and how they're doing. Again, the teacher in the classroom interacting with the parent in Children's Services of Roxbury. It's going to be our family partners. It's going to be our clinicians. It's going to be our youth workers. It's going to be all the range of our staff utilizing and taking advantage and using the leverage of the relationship and the rapport that they already have with that particular family to bring the value to the app. That will be the ultimate decider of how the family benefits from the app and the resource that the app brings, which again will speak to, again, the relationship they have with us.
Thank you. Peter, in the work that you do, we talk a lot about executive functions and how to support, especially with school, with an IEP, or with any type of therapeutic interventions. We want to implement or help kids understand how to manage their time, or how to manage their work, or how to access certain skills that will support them to their academic success. How do you see this app, or what would you envision to be implemented into the app in order to support them with specifically executive functionings?
Well, there are lots of tools that are already in existence around that I wouldn't want to have to reinvent, but maybe to direct people to. But I also want to be wary when we're creating something that will exist in perpetuity in the cyber world. What's happening with that data? If you're asking people to input their information, you've got to be really clear about who's seeing that information and where will it live. We're talking about HIPAA. If we're talking about therapeutic relationships, we're talking about, developing a trust level that people's, if they're going to invest their information in it, put their information, they need to know where it winds up. Towards the other end, I've loved everything that's been said over here. And I also studied with Hubie Jones, so I have that connection. And one thing he impressed upon me early on was, that Boston, we are a city of good ideas that wind up in silos, and that also we've reinvented so many wheels. So I just want to be thinking through here. There's an opportunity not only in the parent involvement in developing it, but ongoing, that parent input should be built into the app. So that, because it only takes 1 or 2 failures of a connection for parents to see it as useless and won't engage with it. So if there are resources connected to resources, there needs to be feedback of, oh, you sought that resource out, how did that go? Was that successful for you? Was that cost prohibitive? Was it transportation? Was it unwelcoming? What about, how did that handoff go? We are we are constantly referring families and our youth into supportive employment situations, enrichment situations, arts programs, and it's the warm handoff that is always essential for the success of that. So we need to find a way to replicate that kind of human interaction and that kind of feedback in any app that we use.
Well, I appreciate your point about, HIPAA and making sure that we are doing this appropriately so that folks are actually understanding and that we're doing it officially, that if people are signing off on any agreements, that they understand that it's super safe, that the app should be super safe in order to protect people's privacies or HIPAA rights. I really appreciate the point that you talked about the resources and the rest of the panel have talked about. I think that's the point of being here, right? So not reinventing the wheel, and then the resources that you speak of from the research that my office did, a lot of it is not free. And so that poses a problem. Mm-hmm. And then so when we're talking about disenfranchised families not having access, right, when we're talking about disenfranchising families not having access in terms of utilization, we're also talking about what Ms. Gomez, Ben Ray mentioned in terms of making things very visual to accommodate all people's learning styles, mm-hmm, not just a whole bunch of stuff to read, a whole bunch of stuff to check off. So I think that I'm really happy that we are here, and I think that there needs to be a whole other list of folks in this conversation as well. I hope that we can continue this conversation, because the idea of not reinventing a wheel so that it's just an idea. Oh, look at these counselors with another bright idea. Where's that going to go? But if we don't have the conversation, if we're not transparent about what is already in existence and bringing those things together, and at least try to coordinate how we can actually create this hub of resources, how we can actually come together with parents, with community, with providers, with professionals such as yourself, then we're not doing the work, we're sort of just letting time pass by right?
I totally agree. I'm not opposed to the idea at all. I just want to have these considerations. I also think there's a great opportunity there to also guide bodies like this into thinking about what other resources are needed. Mm-hmm. So if there is a feedback from parents that I would love this service for my child, but it's cost prohibitive, then the city needs to think about how we're directing our resources, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If transportation is an issue, then that's also something that can be looked at. So
absolutely. I appreciate you, Peter. Thank you so much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. A few things before we close. Thank you for that also, that this conversation is just starting, and it already has brought to light a lot of the things that we're already doing. And like you mentioned, a lot of the classes you took and the programming at different schools that are offered for parents. And those are great conversations, and it ties into, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, but we want an app like this to do use the best resources, the best communication we do have, so that not only do parents feel safe using it, like you mentioned, there's buy-in. They're actually getting value back from it, so they'll use it more. And did want to touch on something that was brought up earlier when BPS sends out either schoolhouse or district-wide. If it's no school tomorrow for snow, I'm going to assume 99% of the parents don't have a question. Maybe they do have, like, then where does my child go? But that back and forth, because many concerns I hear from families is there's a communication at the school level or district-wide, and sometimes it's very concerning. It could be there was an incident, we know you may have seen it on the news, and they want to know. And then I do see the equity piece play in almost instantly, because maybe some parents have the principal's phone number or a teacher or somebody, and they can get an answer. So then there's that feeling like, well, I knew, but oh, how did you know that? And then that's when the rumors start. So that back and forth that Councilor Mejia mentioned, that if there's a follow-up question, because many times it is left on the families feeling like, oh, now what? Does this mean I should do something? Should I talk to my child about it? And I know the initial communication is very important, and that came out of conversations around parents feeling like there is no. So just being thoughtful of, depending on what the message is there a phone number? Is there maybe a live email that if you do have a question, no, you can call this number?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that is exactly what you're seeing more and more of now, which is the reference to the BPS helpline as a place for your questions. And I, even though I started out, remind folks that, I'm sort of new again 10 months ago, I've seen that change in those 10 months from people saying, who should we put as the contact for questions? Right. And then it's always different. The helpline really allows us to have that solid, and the reality that changing systems and growing mindsets internally to be like, who else needs to know? The helpline needs to know if there's an incident, if there's,
Glad
whatever.
you say that. I hear that from 311.
Yes.
They're like, wait, we're getting lots of calls. I'm like, oh, you didn't know that your number was on the flyer? Yeah. So that communication, preparing the people on the other end of the helpline is important. And I think even at the level like teachers and staff, because sometimes they're like, oh, we didn't know you shared that information, or we weren't sure.
Right.
No, I appreciate that. And I appreciate making sure we have, if it's a working session next or continuing this conversation, will be wonderful. Councilor Mejia?
Thank you. I just, Chair, are we wrapping up? So is that what it is? So,
And you can ask up here.
yeah, I just want to make sure. I don't violate any rules of engagement here. All right, so I'm just curious about CPC, the Citywide Parent Council. They are actually written into the city charter in terms of family engagement, so I'm just going to just uplift that as we continue to move forward with any development of an app, that obviously they are definitely part of the puzzle.
For sure.
And because I know the history of that space, we have 125 schools, and the CPC has struggled with making sure there's representation from across all schools. So I just really want to make sure, as you all continue to do the family engagement work, that the schools that have the least resources in terms of family engagement are the ones that we're really thinking about how we engage them in the app making process, because those are the ones who are going to most likely need the most help. So I just really want to uplift that, because that is definitely an area that I have seen that needs some help, to say the least. I think that's really important. And then I think I just want to say hello to Peter. 12 years into this work, working with students who are chronically absent. In particular, that's how you and I met, Peter. And I'm just curious, as we continue to talk about this app, it's not just family engagement, but I'm also curious about youth who are experiencing crisis, and what are we doing to help them navigate their mental health needs, or like some kids don't go to school because they're afraid. Sunny Pie was the head of Diploma Plus in Charlestown. This was when I was a parent. advocate back then, and he had shared with me that there was a student who was afraid to go to school, and he was chronically absent. So they had to figure out a way how to get that student to school, and it was through an Uber or a Lyft, right? So I'm just curious, as you all continue to think about these issues, what are some of the current crises or things that you want to uplift that get included in this app making process that also speaks to young people and their issues that they face?
In general, I think, again, the use of technology should lead to human connection and support rather than replace it. So one positive coming out of the pandemic was the development of telehealth as a way of making that connection through. So for students that are school phobic or having issues with their anxiety level to get through the threshold of the school, we can do telehealth with them and getting them to a point where they can then make it in school, as well as make a plan with the school, make a plan, work with them. It takes, every story is an individual story. Every person has their own challenges and strengths, and it really takes coming together and thinking about it with all the concerned parties to support that youth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And I also think, as I look across the room, on the other side of the wall, if you will, in terms of the advocates, I just want to say thank you for your work and how hard you go to making sure that families are front and center of all these conversations. And the last thing that I'll say is that I know Counselor Anderson always talks about being a foster mom and navigating this world. And I think it's really important, as you all continue to develop any system, any apparatus, is that we have a lot of families who are court involved. And, you know, there's DYS, there's DCF, there's a lot of, you know, systems that are interfacing with our families. And so I would really encourage us not to just think about Boston Public Schools, because that's just one entity, but there's just so many different moving pieces, and everybody needs to be engaged in this process. And so I'm really encouraged, and I'm not going to hold up the mic just for the sake of holding up the mic, but I really do appreciate Counselor Anderson's leadership for bringing this into the space, and I really do think that it's important for us to work collaboratively alongside you all and families, more importantly, and centering young people in this process. And multilingual, I think that's key. There are a lot of families who don't speak English who get text messages, even though they're in English, or they may send them in the native language. I think that there's lots of things that we already have that are not working well. So we need to do a full audit of what's not working and also develop things that can work better. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilman Mejia, for your contribution to this hearing and being here in support. I want to, reemphasize that the idea is that we're aware that Boston is resource rich and coordination poor, and that we need to have more collaborative conversations to be able to talk about what's in existence, what's working well and what's not, in order for us to do a better job in either coordinating existing resources or reinventing the wheel, but a better wheel. I don't know, but I do know, to Councilman Mejia's point, I think that it's more about being a foster parent. I worked for this place. I also worked in CBHI, Children's Behavioral Health Initiative, and a lot of that work really gives you a fuller picture of, working in wraparound, you really do center the child. And working in foster care, you are experiencing and connecting with various institutions. So the criminal justice system, housing deficits, or education or health, on all levels. And you start thinking about this holistic aspect, not only because of my professional background, but also because of my experience with children. And I really hope that we can put together our minds to be able to have conversations. I think the Aspen app is amazing, and would like to collaborate with the chair's permission to further, if a working session, if the chair decides this needs to go into a working session, then collaborating with BPS. And I think that, pulling you in, Peter, is essential, as well as, of course, providers and parents, to be able to look at how can we enhance what's already in existence, especially if it's working well, especially that you already have thousands upon thousands of parents already connected. So maybe it's going into phases and piloting just, the mental health component. Or maybe it's just adding, the part where you're doing just, the time management component, right? So like maybe it's going into different phases, whereas we can actually enhance something, or again, invent something to pull in these resources and see how we can provide a more cohesive ecosystem for families and support them. I don't want to just speak and close out. It's to the chair's discretion, but if anyone has any closing remarks, I would like to hear from you. If not, thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Yes?
So I just wanted to make sure we add to the record that East Boston has actually been working on an app for young children. And they did it through a collaborative process with the East Boston Social Center taking the lead, but with their parent partners and families. Mm-hmm. They're doing it with Northeastern University. And I don't think it gets to everything that you've talked about and sort of the vision today, but when you think about maybe iterations, it might be something to look at, because it did start with parents. It's really focused on 0 to 5 and accessing resources in the community. So it might be something to look at to make sure that we're thinking about how to.
Thank you. Is this just 0 to 5?
I believe it is, but you would need to ask Justin Pasquarello at East Boston Social Center and also at Northeastern. It's part of their co-op program and going and working on the capstone project. Thank you. Michael Arnold Magnus is the lead from Northeastern, but it would be worth looking at how they developed, and it's in prototype, so what they're learning.
Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
I would also add, just to look at a resource, is Help Steps, which is an app that's maintained by the Boston Public Health Commission through the Mayor's Health Line. Developed by Children's Hospital, and it is a database of resources, all kinds of resources for families in the city.
What is it, Help what?
Help Steps. And it is updated every year, so the information is supposed to be up to date.
That's great. Thank you. Before I close out, I do want to read a letter from President Flynn. Dear Councilor Murphy, please be advised that I am unable to attend today's hearing on Docket 0409, a hearing to discuss ways to support parental involvement and engagement through the development of a digital platform. I will review the tape of the hearing when it becomes available. Thank you for your leadership on this matter. Sincerely, Ed Flynn. So that being said, I do want to thank everyone for being here. I do also want to acknowledge the panelists for staying. I know we've had some conversation like who goes first, who talks, and I'm happy that you were here, and because throughout the entire conversation you added value, all of you, and I do like that we all just made it one big panel, and also to lift up the parent on the panel. And I do hope, I think the best thing would be to bring it into a working session before another formal hearing, so I'm not closing out this meeting now, but we'll continue a working session and hope to have more parent conversation also. I know all of you work closely with parents, so you know what they're saying and need, but it's great to have all voices here to support. So with that being said, Docket 0409, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.